Picture this. You're at a social gathering. There's someone standing near the edge of the room, not saying much. They're not on their phone, but they're not in the center of the group either. People glance at them, maybe wonder why they're so quiet, maybe think they're just shy or awkward. But then, someone starts a deep conversation. That quiet person says one thing. Just one. And suddenly, the room falls silent. What they said wasn't loud, but it was sharp, honest, and cut straight to the truth. That's the INFJ. To many people, INFJs come across as socially awkward. They avoid small talk, don't enjoy crowds, and seem to hesitate before speaking. Some might see this as a flaw. But is it really? What if the reason they don't jump into conversation isn't because they're unsure, but because they're thinking on a different level? What if their silence is filled with insight, and their quietness is how they observe the world before they speak? INFJs aren't wired like most people. They're introverted, yes, but they're also intuitive, emotionally deep, and incredibly thoughtful. Their minds are always working. They see connections, ask bigger questions, and feel more than they show. While others focus on how they're being seen, the INFJ is focused on what's not being said. This can make them seem awkward on the surface. But under that quiet exterior is often a sharp, curious, and even brilliant mind. In this video, we'll break down 6 reasons INFJs may appear socially awkward, but are often quietly, even secretly, operating with genius. These aren't just personality quirks. They're signs of deep inner processing, emotional intelligence, and long-term thinking. Whether you're an INFJ yourself or someone trying to understand one, this will help make sense of the moments where silence isn't weakness, but strength. Where hesitation isn't fear, but careful thought. Where quietness isn't a gap, but a doorway into something deeper. Let's begin with the first reason INFJs often seem awkward in social settings, but it's actually the result of something else entirely. Reason number 1. Deep thinking holds up conversation. When someone asks a question in a conversation, most people answer fast. They don't pause. They go with the first thought that comes to mind. But INFJs work differently. They pause. They process. They go inward, scanning different ideas before deciding what to say. And sometimes, by the time they're ready to speak, the conversation has already moved on. This delay can make them seem awkward or slow to respond. People might think they're unsure or don't know what to say. But the truth is, they're thinking harder and deeper than most people realize. INFJs are natural deep thinkers. They take in not just the question, but the meaning behind it. They consider the person asking, the emotional tone, and how their answer might affect the room. They might even be juggling multiple thoughts at once. Should I answer honestly? Will this sound too intense? Is this the right time to say this? This constant filtering slows down their speech, but not their intelligence. In fact, it shows how thoughtful they are. They don't like giving shallow answers. They don't want to waste words. When they speak, they want it to matter. Because of this, INFJs often say less, but their words carry more weight. They're the kind of person who might be quiet for 10 minutes, then say one sentence that makes everyone stop and think. This careful style of thinking and speaking can make small talk hard. If someone asks, "How's it going?" the INFJ doesn't want to just say good if it isn't true. But going deeper might not feel right either. So they may hesitate, pause, or deflect with humor. That pause is often misunderstood as awkwardness, but it's really a sign of how seriously they take communication. Their thinking also goes far beyond the present moment. INFJs often see long-term patterns. While others are discussing weekend plans, the INFJ might be thinking about the bigger meaning behind their choices. This kind of future-focused thinking doesn't always fit in casual conversations. Even in group discussions, INFJs can seem distant or disengaged. But they're not. they're just processing. They're listening to every word, feeling every emotional shift, and trying to put it all together. By the time they're ready to speak, they've built a clear, deep response, but the moment might have passed. So they go quiet again. And people think they're awkward. But what they really are is careful. This kind of deep thinking is often seen in creative minds, researchers, and visionaries. INFJs take their time because they care about what they say. And sometimes that pause holds more power than a quick answer ever could. Reason number 2, sensitivity to social cues. Creates overwhelm. INFJs are extremely sensitive to social cues. They don't just hear your words, they feel your tone, read your body language, and pick up on what you're not saying. In any social setting, their mind is scanning for emotional signals, both obvious and hidden. And while this gives them a lot of insight, it also creates overwhelm. Imagine trying to read 5 books at the same time while someone is asking you questions. That's what a social interaction can feel like for an INFJ. They notice that someone at the table seems uncomfortable. They hear a subtle shift in someone's voice that suggests tension. They sense when a joke didn't land well, or when someone's smile is fake. All of this goes into their mind, and they're trying to respond to the moment while also sorting all of that emotional data. This intense awareness slows down their social reaction time. They may hesitate to speak because they're weighing how their words will affect each person present. They're trying not to offend, not to trigger discomfort, and not to say something out of sync with the mood. This can make them appear stiff, distant, or unsure. The truth is, they're just trying to be kind. At the same time, this sensitivity means INFJs often get overstimulated in group settings. Loud voices, multiple conversations, shifting topics, and emotional undercurrents. They take it all in. While others can ignore it, INFJs feel it all. And when it becomes too much, their mind starts to shut down. They get quiet. They pull back. Not because they're rude, but because their system is overloaded. In one-on-one settings, INFJs do much better. The emotional signals are easier to manage. There's less pressure to read multiple people at once. They can relax, focus, and connect deeply. But in group settings, they may come across as shy, awkward, or cold. This sensitivity also makes INFJ self-conscious. They often replay conversations in their head later. Did I sound weird? Did I miss something? Did I say too much? This post-event thinking adds to their social anxiety and makes them even more cautious next time. So when you see an INFJ looking uncomfortable in a group, it's not that they don't belong. It's that they're too tuned in. This kind of emotional sensitivity is a quiet strength. It allows INFJs to connect on a deep level, show great empathy, and make people feel truly seen. But it also means they need more time to process and more space to recharge. They're not awkward. They're just feeling everything all at once. Reason number 3, preference for depth over small talk. One thing that instantly makes INFJs stand out in social settings is how little they care for small talk. They don't dislike people, but surface-level conversation leaves them feeling disconnected. They struggle to pretend they care about what someone had for lunch or what the weather will be like next week. It's not that they're rude, it's that their brain is wired for depth. They want to talk about ideas, values, patterns. What keeps people up at night? What drives someone's choices? What someone really means when they say, "I'm fine." These are the kinds of things that light the INFJ up inside. But small talk rarely leads to those conversations, and INFJs don't always know how to fake interest in the meantime. This can make them seem awkward or standoffish in casual settings. While others are chatting easily, INFJs may stand off to the side, unsure of how to join in. They don't want to interrupt, but they also don't want to pretend. If If the conversation turns deeper, they may open up suddenly and passionately, which can take people by surprise. Sometimes, INFJs try to play along. They'll smile, nod, and ask polite questions. But it often feels forced. They may feel bored or disconnected. After too much of this, they retreat inward. They might zone out or quietly remove themselves from the group altogether. Others may think they're shy or socially uncomfortable, but they're really just unfulfilled by the surface-level exchange. This is why INFJs often shine in one-on-one conversations or late-night talks with close friends. When the mask drops and the real conversation begins, the INFJ comes alive. They ask thoughtful questions. They listen closely. They share insights that others may not have considered. And in that space, their social awkwardness disappears because they finally feel connected. INFJs also have a strong need for authenticity. They can't stand fake smiles, forced laughs, or empty compliments. If a conversation feels fake, they will shut down. But if it feels honest, even if it's messy, they will open up. Because of this, they often form fewer friendships, but the ones they do form are deep and lasting. They're not interested in knowing 100 people casually. They'd rather truly know a few. This depth over small talk preference can be misunderstood. People may think the INFJ is uninterested or distant. But really, they're waiting for the moment the conversation becomes real. That's when they step forward. That's when their social skills finally match their inner world. Reason number 4, internal world fuels unique insights. NFJs live most of their life inside their head. Their inner world is rich, imaginative, and constantly active. Even when they're sitting quietly, they're not idle. They're thinking about relationships, stories, patterns, ideas, the future, or even abstract questions about life. This makes them seem distant, but it's also what fuels their unique insights. Because they spend so much time thinking, INFJs often see connections that others don't. They link past and present. They notice emotional patterns. They sense where a situation is heading long before it gets there. These insights can come across as strange at first, especially if shared too soon. But later, when things unfold the way the INFJ predicted, it becomes clear they were onto something all along. Their internal world gives them perspective. While others are caught up in the moment, the INFJ is watching the bigger picture. They often know when someone is lying, even if they can't prove it. They sense when a friendship is shifting. They recognize when something isn't being said. And they don't just feel it, they think through it deeply. This kind of perception can make social situations tricky. INFJs may feel disconnected from conversations that stay on the surface. While others joke around or talk about their day, the INFJ might be analyzing someone's tone, wondering if they're stressed, or quietly sensing that something else is going on. Their thoughts move faster and deeper than the conversation around them. Sometimes they try to join in, but what they want to say feels out of place. Their ideas may seem too heavy, too abstract, or just not in sync with the room. So they stay quiet, not because they don't have something to say, but because they're not sure it will be understood. But when they find the right setting or the right person, their insights shine. They may say something that changes how someone sees themselves. They may point out a connection that no one else noticed. They may ask a question that leads to a breakthrough. In those moments, their genius becomes clear. Their quiet, deep-thinking nature isn't a flaw. It's a source of rare wisdom. Others might miss it because the INFJ doesn't always speak up. But when they do, their words come from a place of reflection, emotion, and clarity. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're simply sharing what their inner world has been building all along. Reason number 5, observational silence, leads to quiet genius. INFJs are some of the most observant people you'll ever meet. But their observation comes through silence. While others are busy talking, INFJs are watching, listening, studying the room, the people, pinto the energy. And over time, this habit of quiet observation gives them a deep and accurate read on the world around them. They don't need to dominate conversations to be part of them. They absorb everything: the way someone avoids eye contact, the change in someone's posture, the shift in tone when a certain topic comes up. These aren't things most people notice, but the INFJ does, and they remember them. This silent gathering of information often makes people underestimate them. When someone is quiet, others assume they're not paying attention. But in truth, the INFJ is often the most aware person in the room. Because of this, they see things before others do. They notice who's uncomfortable, who's hiding something, who's trying too hard. They may not say anything in the moment, but they file it away. And when the time is right, they act with accuracy that seems almost psychic. This is part of what gives them their quiet genius. They don't need loud debates or long speeches. One calm statement from an INFJ can cut through confusion and hit the heart of an issue. Their silence also helps them learn quickly. While others are talking over each other, INFJs are absorbing new information, comparing it to what they already know, and storing it for future use. This makes them great at strategy, pattern recognition, and creative problem solving. People might think they're shy, but really, they're focused. They know that watching first gives them more insight later, and they're patient enough to wait for the right moment. In friendships, this can be a powerful gift. INFJs often know what someone needs before they ask. They give advice that feels tailor-made. They show up when no one else noticed anything was wrong. That's the genius behind their observation. It turns into action that actually helps. What may look like social awkwardness is often just restraint. They don't need to be the center of attention. They're fine letting others lead the room while they lead in silence. Because for INFJs, the smartest person isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the one quietly seeing everything and saying only what matters most. Reason number 6, empathy turns understanding into unexpected questions. INTFJs are deeply empathetic. They don't just listen, they feel. When someone talks, the INFJ is already stepping into their emotional world. They don't have to try. It's automatic. They start to sense what that person might be going through, even if nothing has been said directly. This deep emotional understanding often leads to unexpected questions. While everyone else might be nodding along, the INFJ suddenly asks something that seems a little out of left field. But that question cuts right to the truth. It might stop the conversation, make someone pause, or even bring out emotions the other person didn't know they were holding in. For some people, this makes the INFJ seem odd or socially off. Why would someone ask a question that deep, that quickly? Why skip over the basics and go straight into the heart of someone's emotions? It doesn't always follow the expected flow of conversation. But this is how INFJs work. Their empathy gives them a fast track to what matters. They're not trying to be intense, they're just picking up on emotional energy and responding in kind. It might feel awkward in a group setting, but one-on-one, this is where they truly shine. Their ability to read emotions and respond with surprising questions often reveals their inner genius. They don't just understand facts, they understand people. They can take someone's scattered story, emotional tone, and body language and figure out what's really going on. Then they'll ask the question no one else thought to ask. This ability often comes from years of paying attention. INFJs usually learn from a young age to notice emotional shifts around them. Maybe they had to read the room growing up. Maybe they learned that staying emotionally tuned in helped them stay safe. Over time, that habit became a strength. And now, it's something they do without effort. This also makes them great at offering support. When someone's struggling, the INFJ doesn't need a long explanation. They can just sense it. And their questions, though unexpected, often help the person feel seen in a way they haven't felt before. Their empathy-driven insights are not always welcome in surface-level conversations, but they're powerful tools in deep connection and understanding. They may seem random or off-topic, but they're usually right on target. So while others may mistake their questions for social oddness, those who really know the INFJ see the truth. Behind every strange question is a mind that listens, feels, and understands far more than it lets on. INFJs may never be the loudest voice in the room. They may pause before speaking, shy away from small talk, or seem out of place in large groups. And yes, sometimes they come across as socially awkward. But behind that quiet presence is something much deeper. We've explored 6 powerful reasons why the INFJ's social awkwardness is often misunderstood genius. From their deep thinking and emotional sensitivity to their dislike for surface talk, love of observation, rich inner world, and unexpected empathy-driven questions, each trait reveals more than just a shy personality. It shows a mind and heart that process the world differently. They don't avoid conversation because they're unsure. They pause because they care about what they say. They don't pull back because they're cold. They retreat because they're overwhelmed by too much emotional noise. They don't ignore others. They're just focused on what matters. If you're an INFJ, these quiet traits are not flaws. They're strengths, designed to help you connect deeply, think clearly, and see what others miss. You may not always fit into the world of quick jokes, fast responses, and casual chat, but you bring something else entirely. You bring depth, insight, honesty, and a kind of emotional intelligence that doesn't always get noticed, but always leaves an impact. And if you know an INFJ, give them space to be themselves. Don't rush their answers. Don't assume their silence means they're lost. Sometimes it just means they're thinking bigger than the moment. INFJs may seem socially awkward, but in truth, they're quietly brilliant.